The Chicago Bears roster competition just got a lot more interesting after Ozzy Trapilo was back on the practice squad after being removed from the PUP list. Now, while this does not mean that he's going to return to the football field in a short amount of time, we're going to talk about what that means for the Chicago Bears. Also, you also have Kyle Monangai getting injured in yesterday's practice. We're going to give an update on that and the players that did the most to help strengthen their case to make the roster after the first preseason game. We're going to talk about all that plus comments from Ben Johnson and more right after this. What's going on, Bears fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bears Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bears related. I'm the host here, Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Chi Bears Central on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go ahead and get into this content for today, y'all. And so, as many people have known by now, we did do a breaking news episode on it as well. Ozzy Trapilo has now been removed from the physically unable to perform list, the PUP list, PUP list, whatever you want to call it. And this now opens up a window for Ozzy Trapilo to try to return. Many people will remember he ruptured his patellar tendon just 7 months ago in the wild card matchup against the Green Bay Packers in January. Now he's back on the field just 7 months later. This was originally touted as a 12 to 18 month return window possibly for him as well. That's why a lot of it has been, the expectation would be that he would miss the majority of the 2026 season, but he's there, right? Now, while Trapilo has not returned to full activity yet in practice, he was doing individual workouts just yesterday, right? So he's not returned yet to full team activities or drills yet, but this is a ramp up period to get him where he needs to get. The Bears are going to take the cautious approach with Ozzy Trapilo coming back. So this does not mean that he's going to be back on the field anytime soon. I've already seen some Bears fans say things like, oh, that's it for Braxton. Somebody ex-player could be cut. It doesn't mean any of that. We could still be a month or more away from Ozzy Trapilo returning to the football field. Now, with that, Ozzy Trapilo's return is already kind of so far advanced from the timeline that we originally thought that, don't count it out, right? But practice some patience. They have no need to rush him back right now. When you look at it, outside of the one blunder that Jedrick did have in the preseason game, where I think it was he just got caught off guard. It was an awareness thing. It happens sometimes. Everybody has that moment. But outside of that, like him and Kiran Amegadjie both looked pretty damn good, on the football field on Saturday. So there's no need for the Chicago Bears right now to rush Ozzy Trapilo back. I know people are excited. I know what it means. And I've even talked about once he is back on the football field, what that means for the Chicago Bears as far as from a depth perspective. It gives the Bears tremendous depth on that offensive line. And like I like to tell everybody all the time, when Bears fans get anytime something happens, like, oh, well, we can cut such and such. Oh, let's go ahead and trade such and such. It's perfectly fine to operate from a place of having a plethora of depth. It's perfectly fine, especially when your goal isn't just winning some regular season games. The Bears are trying to be a true Super Bowl contender this year. Now, we talk about the defense and what's going to hold them back in regards to that one, but it's still an open competition for the left tackle position. It doesn't change anything there. Braxton Jones, Kiran Amegadjie, Jedrick, those guys are still battling out for it, but the person who they're holding that seat warm for is Ozzy Trapilo. Now, on top of that, I do want to point out that once Ozzy Trapilo is cleared for football activity, they're probably not going to throw him right back into the deep end and being every down starting left tackle. They could even bring him off the bench like they did. Keep in mind, I don't think he started until week 11 or 12 when he became the permanent starter last season. So, they're going to be cautionary with this. Like, they're not going to rush him out in regards to that. So, it's good that he's cleared. It's good that he's on pace. It's good that he's doing the things that he's going to need to do to get back on the football field for this team, because that's all what we want to see. We want Ozzy Trapilo to be back because it just makes everything else with this Bears offensive line be so sensible. You have Jedrick who can play guard and tackle, right? You have Theo Benedict who can play swing tackle. Braxton is as well, right? Like, even though his limitations with that. And if Kiran Amegadjie continues to show that he's actually currently NFL player now, which he hasn't looked like up until this point. He can also play multiple positions. So you're throwing that in with Jordan McFadden. You already have Logan Jones as the backup center. You got Luke Newman still in there, Caden Barnett as well. Like, you have some depth here, and more depth than what the Chicago. But, like, keep in mind, we're only a couple years removed from the Bears' offensive line being one of the worst offensive lines in the game of football. Now you can go forward into a season after you got one playoff win and have depth on that offensive line, which means you can keep your offensive linemen fresh. You can rotate those guys in and out. That's a spot that you want to operate within, especially as you're trying to make that next step and get over that hump and get to the NFC champion and then hopefully a Super Bowl. So let's see what the Bears do with that one. But a great update on Ozzy Trapilo. Love what we see there. But then, of course, it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows, because can you make it through a Chicago Bears practice without an injury happening, right? According to a lot in attendance, Kyle Monangai got tangled up with Grady Jarrett, and during non-padded practice on top of that, both players went down. Kyle Monangai did get examined on the field by a trainer. He did walk off the field under his own power, but he was walking gingerly. It does seem like he's going to get an MRI, according to Adam Schefter. He did report that Kyle Monangai is believed to be fine. Initial tests did show that his knee is structurally sound, but the team will do an MRI to confirm what's going on there. Now, and this is why you're not seeing a lot of the starters play in preseason, because why even risk? If you're getting hurt in the padded practice, we don't even need to risk it, right? Now, it's good that it doesn't sound like it's going to be much to it, because what you need from this Bears team is you need everybody healthy, on point, and ready to go, because listen, our running back room is part of what keeps us and makes us a good team. It just is. And so when you miss those type of things, it hurts your team and it hurts what you're trying to do. So overall, I'll say this: I'm not really too worried about it. I don't think many people should be worried about it. But I think the Bears are going to be fine. The Bears are going to be perfectly fine in the long run with it. Kyle Monangai is probably going to be there. We had some really good signs from like Savon Ahmed or Savon Ahmed. They say the L silent. I always break that up, but we'll see what happens. I'm not too worried about it. Kyle Monangai is a pit bull, and he's going to continue to be good. But we got some depth in that running back room, and right now we're trying to find out running back 3. So Kyle Monangai, even if it is, he's a little hurt, ginger, whatever it is, you don't have to worry. Really, you don't have to worry about that until the regular season starts. Keep figuring out your depth at the running back position. This is why even more depth at that running back position is going to be important for the Bears this upcoming year, because we know that DeAndre Swift, Kyle Monangai were a really good 1-2 punch. What they were able to bring, how they brought it consistently, it was great to see for the Chicago Bears last year. But I think that right now you can file this away as more of a scare than anything meaningful. We've dealt with a number of injury scares already, so I know the moment that we hear anything about an injury, it gets concerning, right? Kyle Monangai is going to be thrust into a really important role this year. And you guys know one of the things and the challenges that I laid out for Kyle Monangai, not that it just matters, is like, how many running back 1 skills do we see from Kyle Monangai this year? Swift and Monangai were one of the better rushing duos in the league last year. And the 783 yards, 4.6 yards per carry, and 5 touchdowns that he finished with last year from a player that, a lot of us Bears fans are like, damn, we got this guy in the 7th round. What does that mean that he's going to turn into? And we'll see what's going to happen. But I do think, like, for a lot of these guys, it's about being healthy in the regular season, because even a short stint of absence at the start of the season can be hugely detrimental for this team. But luckily, you do have Savon Ahmed, who looked pretty good. Roshan looked solid in the snaps, too. It's just Ahmed looked like more of a dual-threat running back, right? So there's no reason to push or rush Kyle Monangai. It's preseason. You know what you have in your starting lineup. The Bears really aren't looking for a lot from their starters, because we kind of know what we're going to have. And Kyle Monangai may not play another preseason snap at all. And if he doesn't, that's fine. We already know he's the running back 2. We already know that he's an NFL player. We already know what he's capable of. And we figured out last season how to use him the best. And even if the Bears are going to add a little bit of responsibility to him, add some stuff to his route tree, add some blocking schemes for him, whatever it is, like we can do that without him needing to be in preseason games. So don't worry about this one until we are. I'm sure those MRI results will come back here. We may hear him before the start of practice before the next practice, because they have their little press conferences before then. We'll probably get an update into that then. And I wouldn't be surprised if it's nothing, no harm, no foul. Kyle Monangai will be ready to go by the start of the season. And, we keep making and trucking along, which I know a lot of people are still waiting on Kyler Gordon. Bears fans are getting really frustrated with Kyler Gordon and the fact that he can't get back out there. And I'll just leave that at that because, I don't disagree with you guys. And so we'll see. But with that said, I do want to get into the players that stood out the most in the first preseason game. Now, I want to be clear here. It was a preseason game where neither team played a lot of their starters, and so we don't want to have these overarching takes like what we saw in preseason is necessarily going to be exactly what we see from them in the regular season. But I think when you look at players that were on the roster bubble, things like that, you can start taking away some of this because this is the important part for these players, right? Jamari Chroma. This is a guy when the Bears signed him as an undrafted free agent, I was really high on the potential that he could bring here, and he didn't really show a lot, right? And you could make an argument that he was one of the best defensive players on the field in Saturday's game, period, right? 2 sacks, 6 tackles, 3 tackles for a loss, 2 QB hits, and a 4th down strip sack as well did Jamari Chroma come away with, right? This isn't just a splash play that was lucky. This was consistently getting into the backfield, consistently disrupting the opposite team, throwing them off their rhythm, all those type of things that you have there. When you look at how the Chicago Bears need an ability for players to be able to get to the quarterback, that is something that we lacked last season that we're trying to find this season. Chroma brought a lot of that in the preseason game, right? And so I think preseason is where you kind of expect rotational pass rushers to force their way into the conversation, because even though we're saying that, yeah, this isn't starters and stuff like this, did he face off against competition much differently than he's going to face off against coming in as a rotational depth piece? We'll see. He's going to come up against some starters for sure, but it's good there. So I think the next step and path for him going forward is show that he can repeat this. Show that this wasn't just a flash in the pan performance, and that you can consistently bring some things. So when you look at it, what to watch next for Jamari, it comes down to, does he get reps against better offensive linemen as he continues to maybe even start over the course of this preseason? Does his snap count rise over the course of the preseason? Do they trust him a little bit more, throw more on him? And does Dennis Allen use him in more packages? If those things happen, and he can get to the quarterback as well as defend the rush as well as the pass rush, that's going to be a big thing there for the Chicago Bears. So I think that 2 sacks are enough to get attention. Now, do you do it again? Because if you do, that may be enough to get you a roster spot, and that's what you're looking at for that one. And then a guy that I think we heard a lot about over the last kind of week of practice leading into the first preseason game, Caden Davis just turned the hype into real production that we got to see in a game. He is really making it hard to cut him. And while it's still the kind of expectation that he's going to end up on the practice squad, listen, for him to not just look good at Hallis Hall, but go out there and look good and translate it into a real game. 4 catches, 88 yards, and a touchdown. He led the Chicago Bears in receiving in that game as well. Caden Davis, you always have your preseason darlings, and sometimes those preseason darlings are just that. But I think when you look at how Ben Johnson loves his weapons, how he likes to use a varying of different looks, how he likes to diversify the packages, all those type of things, that's there, right? This is what you want to see from somebody who has turned themselves into a training camp darling. Because practice production is a little bit different from when you see NFL production. It can lie a little bit, but what he saw now in game production, it carries more weight than even what we heard in practices, and that's a good thing, right? He already has chemistry with Tyson Bagent, which, it is what it is. That transferred immediately what we saw on the football field. And I do think with Luther Burden's injury, it's going to open the door to wide receiver opportunities, and he's ready to run through that door and grab those opportunities by the neck, right? And so I love that. The Bears do have a crowded wide receiver room, though. So it's going to be difficult. I do think he's going to have to show some in special teams as well, and it could become a deciding factor if he's practice squad or final 53. But I think he's in a really good spot. And so I think when you look at it, you can only ignore a player that does it every single day in practice and in games so much. And so while one preseason game isn't necessarily enough, when you package that with what he's done in practice, and if he keeps doing it in preseason, Caden Davis is making a strong case for himself to get out there, and we're going to see. Next guy up, Beanie Bishop. This guy could be exactly what the secondary wants, exactly what the secondary needs. 2 picks. And I think when you look at it, it's changed the conversation some. And once again, injuries are what opens the door for this so much, right? You have Jalen Jones hurt, Kyler Gordon's hurt. You have those things in it. So he had 2 interceptions, 3 pass breakups, 3 tackles against Cleveland. And so when you look at the secondary injuries that the Chicago Bears do have, this is a perfect timing for it, right? Kobe Bryant's out for the remainder of the season. Kyler Gordon's availability remains a question hanging over the head of this Bears team. And so when you have depth, especially with the way that Dennis Allen likes to use defensive backs in his scheme, he capitalized on that. He did that, and he forced bad throws and turned those into interceptions, right? And then when you look at the praise that came from Ben Johnson specifically in regards to Beanie Bishop, it shows that they're noticing it. He said this. I think it's a credit to him. He doesn't say a whole lot. He's just learning and trying to absorb the system right now. I think the defensive coordinator, Dennis Allen, has been pretty clear with how our pass defense works together. It's the rush up front combined with the coverage in the back end. And when you feel that front coming off the ball and affecting the quarterback to a degree that they did, move him off the spot. That's where you get some overthrows and things of that nature. And Beanie's in a great position, and he took advantage of it twice, Thought he had a great return afterwards as well. It was awesome to see. We'll continue to evaluate him as we get going. Also, where we have to get better as a team, we have to score some touchdowns when we get those takeaways. There's a lot of good tape on today. I know what the score says, and yet we have a lot to learn and grow from as well. When you look at Beanie Bishop, somebody who spent 2025 on the practice squad of the Pittsburgh Steelers, he played for all 17 games for the Steelers in 2024, then spent the following season completely on the practice squad. This is a guy that's hungry. He's hungry, right? And so now, I think when you look at, of course, he has an early season suspension, which is going to complicate things with the roster math. But overall, both those interceptions came off overthrows, which means that he read the eyes of the quarterback really well, and it doesn't diminish the performance at all, right? So good defenders have to be in the correct position. And Beanie Bishop finds his way to continually put himself in the right positions for the Bears. So I think this, when quarterbacks overthrow the football, catch it. That's it. Go out there and catch it. And that's what Beanie Bishop did, and therefore he could be fighting and definitely earning himself a spot on the roster. And like we continue to say, with everything that's going on with the Chicago Bears team and the secondary and the injuries that we have in the secondary for the second year in a row, Beanie Bishop definitely has a chance and an opportunity to earn himself something here. And let's see. Salvon Ahmed, right? The Salvon Ahmed versus Roschon Johnson conversation is going to be one to watch in this preseason, in the entirety of this preseason, I would say. When you look at it, he had one of the most complete offensive games that we saw on the roster, right? Of course, Roschon Johnson got the bigger rushing workload. He also finished with 8 carries for 34 yards, including a 19-yard run. And while Ahmed just had 2 carries for 17 yards, he also had 3 receptions for 55 yards and a 49-yard touchdown. And I think when you look at it, this guy has tons of momentum. He's been flashing in camp the whole time. He's explosive when you get him in space. The offense, when you look at it, he also offers a different style than Kyle Monangai and DeAndre Swift, and that's also what you want in the backfield, a varying of styles, especially if you're going to go 3 running backs deep. And then, look, he produced, the biggest running back play on the day. And so those are all things that stand out, especially when you're in a position battle. And when you look again, I like to go to what Ben Johnson says and what he talks about players. When you talk about what he said about, Salvon Ahmed, he said this. Yeah, we feel really good about the 2 top backs right now and where they're at. So the battle for 3, 4, and 5, whatever that looks like, it comes down to special teams. A lot comes down to how you separate yourself from those top 2. What's your skill set? How's it different? He got that slashing mentality where he's hard to bring down in space, and that showed up on today. Showed up in practice, really throughout camp so far. We'll continue to challenge him to find a defined role on the special teams where he can help us out the most there. And then pass protection. How do we continue to improve? When you're a little bit smaller as a running back, that's always what I'm looking for, is how stout we are holding up the blitzing linebacker as well. So, hey, when you're looking at Salvon Ahmed, this guy's doing everything in his power to make the roster, but Roschon Johnson still has a path. He's bigger than all the other backs. He's a more established special teams player, both, getting tackles on special teams and other things. And I think the pass protection value that Roschon Johnson offers is something that's still there, right? And we'll see. But basically, Ben Johnson just told us what he's looking for in the running back 3. Special teams, unique skill set, pass protection. So if we're talking about how these guys work out and which one of these guys is going to end up getting the nod there, it's a big chance that it's going to come down to those things and what happens. The last guy that I want to talk about on today's episode is Ruben Hippolyte. He finally showed himself to be the player that the Chicago Bears drafted. That's it. He's coming out. He broke out in Saturday's game, and that's good. He led the Chicago Bears with 7 tackles. He added a tackle for a loss, a pass breakup, and he contributed in special teams as well. Now, he did leave with a shoulder injury, so we're going to see what happens there. He already had a rookie season that was hampered by injuries as well. But this was a guy that finally showed some of what we've been looking for since he was drafted as a rookie and what Ryan Poles saw in him in that spot, right? This preseason, overall, is a huge opportunity for Ruben Hippolyte. The speed actually transferred to production, what you want to see, right? And with the linebacking room being kind of crowded, you're going to have to make your impact in the thing that you do the best, right? Now, of course, the shoulder injury can disrupt the momentum that he just built in this game. I say could be because we'll see, right? So, the last thing you want to see is a player that as they finally start building momentum, it gets hit with injuries. So we'll see what happens. But I think this could be the beginning of Ruben Hippolyte really starting to carve out a defensive role for himself in preseason. He's just got to get his ass back on the field. So we're going to see what happens in regards to that one. So if you're looking at players whose stock is up after the first preseason game, Caden Davis, Jimmy Croma, Beanie Bishop, Savon Ahmed, Ruben Hippolyte, these guys have all made a big name for themselves, and let's see how it continues to go because these guys are trying to fight to make the final 53, and let's hope that they can do that. But that's going to do it for today's episode, man. Let me know what you guys think on everything down below. Make sure you guys like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell so you never miss an episode or a live stream. You can follow us at Chi Bears Central on every social media platform. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, chicagobearcentral@gmail.com. And lastly, if you want to leave a text message and or voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-242-9336. We're the #1 spot for everything Chicago Bears related. But that is thanks to you, lovely and beautiful people. And like I like to end every episode on, Chi-Town up, but Bear down. Love you guys. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.